Let me ask you something most men are too afraid to admit out loud. You check your phone in the morning, and there's nothing from her. Again, not a good morning, not a, hey, thinking of you. Nothing. But the moment you reach out, she's right there responding, staying, never fully leaving. So, she's not gone, but she's never coming toward you either. And right now, you're probably telling yourself one of two things. Either she's just not a texter, or maybe she's just playing it cool. But what if neither of those stories is true? What if her behavior is revealing something far deeper, something about her psychology, and something even more uncomfortable about yours? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what's happening inside her mind, and the 6 specific shifts that will change this dynamic forever. Don't go anywhere. The most important part starts right after this. Here's what I want you to hold in your mind for the next few minutes. There are 6 things every man must do when a woman never reaches out first. But before I get to number 1, I need to show you why most men never even make it to step 2. Because they make a mistake so early, they don't even realize the game has already shifted against them. I'll show you that mistake in just a moment. But first, a question I want you to sit with. How many times have you shrunk yourself just to keep someone comfortable? How many times have you swallowed your own needs because you were afraid that asking for more would push her away? That right there, that is the root of this entire pattern, and we're about to pull it out from the ground up. Before we get into the 6 shifts, I want you to understand something most relationship channels will never tell you. This isn't about getting her to text you first. This is about becoming the kind of man who doesn't need her to. Because here's the psychological truth, and pay attention to this closely. When a woman senses that your emotional stability depends on her response time, attraction doesn't grow. It dissolves quietly without warning. She won't tell you. She won't explain it. She'll just slowly pull back and you'll keep wondering what you did wrong. But the answer was never about what you did. It was about the energy you were carrying when you did it. By the end of this video, you're going to understand that energy completely, and you're going to know exactly how to shift it. The 6 steps are coming. And step number 3, that one's going to hit different. Most men skip it and it costs them everything. Real quick, if this is already making you think, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now, because what we do on this channel isn't surface-level advice. This is psychology, behavior patterns, real frameworks that help you show up differently, not just in dating, but in how you see yourself. Every week we go deeper. And if you want to stay grounded, confident, and clear-headed in every relationship you're in, this is the channel for you. Subscribe! Then let's get into it. Before the 6 steps, I want to paint you a picture. There's a man. Let's call him every man who's ever been stuck in this pattern. He wakes up. He reaches for his phone before he even reaches for water. Nothing from her. His chest tightens a little. Not a lot, just enough to notice. So, he decides, I'll just say good morning. Keep it casual. She replies. 2 words, 3, maybe 4. He spends the next 20 minutes crafting a response that sounds natural. She replies in 30 seconds, 1 word. And he sits there wondering if he said something wrong, wondering if he should follow up, wondering if pulling back would help or hurt. He's fully inside her world, and she is barely visiting his. Sound familiar? That pattern has a name, and it has a solution. Here are the 6 things you need to do starting now. Point 1. Stop rewarding her silence. The first shift sounds simple. It isn't. Stop rewarding her silence with your effort. Every time she goes quiet and you fill that silence with texts, check-ins, good morning messages, memes, anything, you are training her, not intentionally, but powerfully. You're teaching her that your presence requires nothing from her, no investment, no initiation, no reciprocity. And she learns that lesson fast. Picture this. A man wakes up, checks his phone, sees nothing. His chest tightens. So, he sends a good morning. She replies hours later, dry, predictable. He does the same thing the next day. And the day after, before he realizes it, he has built a system where she contributes 0 and still receives everything. She doesn't have to move toward him. She knows he'll show up on schedule, like a notification she never turned off. Here's the psychology behind this. Human beings do not value what costs them nothing. That's not cynicism. That's neuroscience. That's attachment theory. That's centuries of human behavior compressed into one uncomfortable truth. When your attention is always available, it stops feeling like attention. It starts feeling like wallpaper. So, what do? You let the silence breathe. Not to punish her, not to play games, but because your presence has weight. And weight only matters when it can be felt. When you stop flooding the silence with your efforts, something shifts. That silence becomes loud. It becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, she either sees a reason to step forward, or she reveals that she was always fine with you carrying everything alone. Remember what I said at the beginning? This is about becoming a man who doesn't need her to reach out first. We're going to come back to why that matters even more in step 4. Keep watching. Point 2. Match her energy. Most men don't lose a woman because they're too good to her. They lose her because they give at level 10 when she's giving at level 3. And in attraction requires rhythm. It needs that back and forth, that push and pull. When one person is sprinting and the other is barely walking, the gap doesn't just become emotional, it becomes visible. Picture this. A man sends 4 texts throughout the day, little check-ins, jokes, updates. She responds once, maybe twice. Short, no questions back. So, what does he do? He doubles down. He thinks more effort will inspire effort. But what she feels isn't inspired, she feels pressure, one-sided pursuit. And one-sided pursuit doesn't pull a woman closer, it makes her lean away. Here's the truth about overcompensation. It doesn't come from love, it comes from fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being forgotten, fear that if he slows down, she disappears. And that fear, women can feel it. They're wired for it. They can sense the difference between a man pursuing from confidence and a man pursuing from insecurity. And nothing dilutes attraction faster than a man auditioning for attention that should come naturally. So here's the shift. Mirror her investment. If she's warm and present, match that. If she plans and initiates, meet her there fully. But if she goes cold, you don't chase the warmth. You don't beg the fire to burn. You simply return to yourself. This isn't about being called back. It's not a game. It's about standing in your own dignity and letting her response tell you everything about her real level of interest. When she feels that balanced push and pull, something changes. If she's genuinely interested, she leans in, she matches you, she steps forward. And if she doesn't, that clarity is a gift because now you know. And that brings us to something we haven't talked about yet. What's happening inside your own head while all of this is playing out? Step 3 might be the most important thing I say today. Stay right there. Quick pause. If what I'm saying is landing, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because this is the kind of content most men need to hear. But very few channels are brave enough to say, I'm building something here and I want you to be part of it. Subscribe. Let's keep going. Point 3. Reclaim your emotional control. There's a moment almost every man in this situation knows. You hit send, and then you wait. You check your phone, put it down, pick it up again. Tell yourself you're not anxious, but your whole mood says otherwise. If she replies fast, relieve energy, you feel good. If she takes hours or doesn't reply at all, the tension creeps in. Low-grade anxiety, a subtle fog over your whole day. And right there in that cycle, your emotions are no longer yours. They're hers. Tied to her timing, regulated by her attention, rising and falling based on a tiny notification. Here's what most men don't realize. That shift doesn't stay hidden. Women can feel the subtle in your tone, the slight urgency behind every message, the unspoken hope that she'll validate you with a few typed words. And the moment a woman senses that her approval is the center of your emotional world, something changes. Not because she's cruel, but because emotional dependence never reads as strength, it reads as instability. Picture a man sitting at his desk pretending to work. Phone lights up, just an app notification. His chest drops. He picks it up again 2 minutes later. He knows he's doing it, and he still can't stop. He is not chasing her anymore. He is being controlled by his own anxiety. Here's what I want you to lock in. Her reply is information, not validation. It tells you how invested she is. It tells you nothing about how valuable you are. The moment you separate those two things, everything shifts. Reclaiming your emotional control means redirecting your energy back to your life, your work, your goals, your body, your friendships, your purpose. It means refusing to let a notification determine your mood. And ironically, that's when women start to lean in. Because the man who is unshaken by silence is a man who feels grounded, secure, rare. You stop being the man pacing around his phone. You become the man who didn't even notice it was quiet. And here's where it gets interesting, because step 4 is what happens when you take this emotional control and use it as a tool. This is where most men finally flip the dynamic. Don't skip this. Point 4. Let absence do the work. Most men believe they lose a woman by pulling back. The truth? They lose her by never pulling back at all. When you are always available, always texting, always checking in, always positioned as her emotional safety net, she never gets the chance to feel your presence. And if she can't feel your presence, she will never feel your absence. Without absence, there is no contrast. Without contrast, there is no value. Think about your favorite meal. If you ate it every single day, eventually, no matter how much you loved it, it wouldn't hit the same. Not because the food changed, because the frequency did. Overexposure kills desire every time, no exceptions. Now, picture a man who floods her world with constant messages, constant reassurance, constant emotional availability. He thinks he's building closeness. What he's actually doing is removing all the space for her to reach back. She has no reason to wonder about him, no reason to miss him. He's there before she ever notices he was gone. But the moment you step back intentionally, not dramatically, not with attitude but with calm purpose, the space changes. She notices the missing good morning. She wonders why you seem different, less available. She feels the shift, not because you punished her, but because you finally stopped cushioning her lack of investment. And in that space, you find out the truth. If she values you, she steps forward, she initiates, she closes the distance. If she doesn't, her silence grows. Not because you caused it, because you stopped covering it. Absence doesn't push the right woman away, it reveals her. But here's the question I know some of you are thinking right now. How do you know if she's genuinely interested or just coasting? Step 5 answers that directly, and it's a test most men are too afraid to run. Stay with me. Point 5. Test her interest. Let's be direct about something uncomfortable. You don't actually know if she's interested. You think you do because she responds, because she doesn't fully disappear, because there are moments where it feels like something real. But responding is not the same as investing. Staying is not the same as choosing. And as long as you keep carrying the momentum, reaching out first, keeping conversations alive, making the plans, you will never know her real level of interest because you've made it too easy for her to coast. Picture a man who sends her the same good morning text every single day. It's practically her routine now. Some days she answers, some days she doesn't. Some days she replies hours later with something emotionless. And he keeps doing it because he's afraid that if he stops, she'll drift away. Here's what he doesn't see. If something fades the moment you stop carrying it, it was never real to begin with. Testing her interest is not manipulation. It's not a game. It's creating space for her to show up. Stop being the first to text. Stop following up. Stop being the only person investing energy into this. Step back. Not dramatically, just intentionally. Then observe. Does she close the distance? Does she reach out? Does she ask to see you? Or does the silence sit there comfortable, like it cost her nothing? Her actions will answer the question you keep avoiding. If she cares, she'll show it. If she doesn't, her silence is your clarity. You're not losing her. You're losing the illusion that she was ever fully there. And that brings us to the final shift, and honestly the most powerful one. Because step 6 isn't about her at all. It's about what you've been allowing. It's about standards. And if you've ever wondered why this pattern keeps repeating in your life, this is why. Before we get to number 6, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. This channel is built for men who want real clarity, not just dating advice, but a complete shift in how you see yourself and what you're willing to accept. Hit subscribe. You won't regret it. Let's finish this. Point 6. Raise your standards. Here's the truth that most men never want to hear. At some point, the problem stops being her silence, her inconsistency, her lack of effort. The problem becomes the standards you've quietly allowed yourself to settle for. When you keep holding on to a woman who gives you nothing back, you're not acting out of love, you're acting out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear that maybe this is the best you'll get. And those fears convince you to accept crumbs and call them a connection. Picture a man who keeps a woman in his life even though her investment is zero. She doesn't initiate, she doesn't plan, she doesn't show excitement, but she responds just enough to keep him around. He tells himself, maybe she just needs more time, maybe she's just bad at texting. He builds explanations to protect his hope instead of protecting his self-respect. And here's what he's missing. Every day he stays in that dynamic is a day he trains himself to believe this is all he deserves. He shrinks his world to fit her indifference. And the longer he stays, the more her bare minimum starts to feel like a privilege. Raising your standards is not about becoming cold, it's about becoming honest. Honest about when someone isn't meeting you halfway. Honest about when you're the only one keeping something alive that stopped breathing a long time ago. Your standards are the filter that determines who gets access to you. When you raise them, the wrong women fall away and the right ones step forward naturally without being chased. Because a woman who genuinely values you doesn't make you guess. She doesn't leave you hanging. She doesn't make you audition. She shows up consistently, willingly, because she sees your value without being convinced of it. Your worth is not measured by how long you can hold on. It's measured by how willing you are to walk away when you're not valued. You've just walked through something most men never do, not because the information isn't out there, but because sitting with this truth is uncomfortable. It forces you to look at yourself, not at her. And if you've made it to this point, understand something clearly. You are already ahead of the version of you who used to sit by the phone, waiting for a message that never came. Let's close every loop we opened today. You stop rewarding silence because you finally understood that your attention is a currency, and spending it on someone who hasn't invested anything bankrupts its worth. You matched her energy, not cold, but to stop drowning a connection and effort she never asked for and never returned. You reclaimed your emotional control, because her reply was never your validation. It was always just information. You let absence do the work, because she can't miss what never leaves. And you gave her something worth missing. You tested her interest, and you stopped being afraid of what her actions might reveal, because clarity is always better than comfortable confusion. And you raised your standards not to punish anyone, but to protect something that matters more than her approval: your peace. Here's the shift that ties all 6 together. Her silence no longer threatens you. It informs you. It tells you where she stands, so you can decide where you stand. You stop fixing what isn't broken. You stop forcing what was never mutual. You stop chasing potential and start choosing reality. And in that reality, you finally see it clearly. The right woman doesn't need to be convinced to care. She shows it naturally, consistently, without you having to earn it. You're not here to beg for space in someone's life. You're here to show up as a man who knows his worth. Her effort doesn't define your value. Your standards do. If this video made you stop even for a second and think differently about how you've been showing up, that pause is growth. That awareness is the beginning of everything. Hit subscribe right now, because every week we go deeper into the psychology, the patterns, and the mindset shifts that help men like you stay grounded, confident, and clear in every relationship you build. And if you've ever been stuck exact situation, a woman who never reaches out first, but never fully leaves either, drop your story in the comments. I read them, and your story might be the thing that helps another man finally see the truth. I'll see you in the next.